Welcome back. We are finishing the second half of chapter 4 in our book 20 and 10. Remember, the Nazi soldiers have come up to the house and the children have decided that they will not answer no matter what. And so they're just starting to ask them questions. And the soldier is saying, "But you have to answer us. Don't you have other children with you? Just say yes or no." Dead silence. "Why don't you answer? We are your friends, really. Are there some Jewish children with you?" Not a word from the 20 of us. "You nasty brats," bellowed the soldier. "I know how to make you talk." A shiver ran through me, and I glanced out the window, hoping to see Sister Gabriel's white headdress coming up the path. But the road was deserted and dusk was falling. "It's no use looking out the window to see if your teacher is coming," I heard the soldier say, and I knew he was speaking to me. "Your teacher has been caught. She's in prison, so you see, you had better talk." Sister Gabriel in prison? I recalled the young man's phrase. "You could be shot for this." As I opened, remember that was the young man that brought the Jewish children to them? As I opened my mouth in horror, my foot was stepped on ruthlessly. It was Denise sitting next to me. That foot said, "Pretend, pretend, fool them." I understood, and I made myself look like an idiot. "That one looks stupid," said the soldier who was older. "She certainly does," meanly the other soldier guffawed. "Better try this one. He looks bright." He meant Henry. "Come here, boy, you, yes, you." Henry got up and went forward slowly. "Now," said the young soldier, "you tell us where the Jewish children are. If you don't, you'll be sorry. No one is against us who is smart. Now speak up or else." Henry stood there facing the Nazis in silence. "Take him away," the young soldier ordered the other one, "and do as I told you." The other soldier took Henry by the shoulders and pushed him out of the room. Henry managed to throw a glance at us. He was very pale, his fists were clenched, his lips tight, and in his eyes we read, "Hold on." The door closed behind them. I wanted to shriek, "Henry, Henry!" I dug my nails into my hands instead. "See what happens to bad children," said the young Nazi. "Now, boys and girls, don't be so foolish. Tell the truth. I am going to stay right here with you until one of you speaks up. I am in no hurry. I can wait all day, all night, forever." He put his feet up on a chair, drew a pipe out of his pocket, lighted it, and puffed away. The clock ticked. Tock, tick, tock, endlessly. And we sat there with our mouths closed, hardly daring to move. I'm sure we were all thinking of Sister Gabriel, the Jewish children, the cave, Henry, and wishing it were all over. Pretty soon it was dark. The soldiers did not turn on the electricity. He just sat there, and I think at one time he went to sleep, so quiet it was. Then the other soldier came back without Henry, and the young one asked, "Did he talk?" "No," said the other one. "You're no good," snapped the young one. "I should have taken charge of him. Didn't you give him plenty?" "Plenty," said the other one. All this was said in German, and only George could understand because his parents are Alsatians, and he told us later what the Nazis had said. It was very hard on George that he did understand at the time, and he cannot be blamed for starting to cry. We didn't know why he did it, but we all felt so miserable that others joined him. Presently, you could hear sobs all over the room. The Nazis got up and yelled, to bed, schnell, schnell, no supper, you did not talk, to bed, schnell." So up we went and slipped into our beds, and I guess most of us cried ourselves to sleep. I did too, so I was very startled when I felt the pressure of a hand on my shoulder. I opened my eyes, and in the dark I faintly saw a familiar figure leaning over me. It was Henry. He quickly put his hand over my mouth and whispered, "Listen, I got out. He put me in the coal shed. He's not quite so mean as the younger one. He's the old guard, the kind that fought in the First World War." "What did he do to you?" "He shook me like a plum tree, saying all the while, 'I'm going to thrash you within an inch of your life, and then we'll see if you won't find your tongue.' When we got to the coal shed, he threw me in and locked me up. I heard his footsteps going up the hill, and I was so afraid those in the cave would make a noise and he would discover them. 'How did you get out?' 'My good scout knife. I cut a small piece out of a plank in the door very neatly. Then I slipped my hand through and found that the key was right in the lock.'" "Wonderful. Did you go to the cave?" No, I didn't dare. I didn't know where the Nazis were, and I figured out that if they came to look for me and didn't find me in the coal shed, it would be better for them to see me coming out of the house and not search for me in the hills. But listen, Janet, one of us has to go to the cave now and tell the others what's happening, or else they might wonder and come out and be caught. Besides, they must be cold and hungry. We're hungry too. We've had no supper, I said. Well, I didn't either, said Henry, but we have to get some bread over to them now. There's no telling how long this will last. Where are the Nazis now, I asked. Asleep on the sofa in the front room. So you see, this is our chance. He paused then. Janet, would you mind going? I felt cold all over, but I asked quietly, with you? No, he said, because as I told you, if I'm not in the coal shed, that might make matters worse. You go with Philip. Why Philip? Because he's big and can carry 4 blankets easily. He could go alone if he knew where the cave is, but he doesn't. So that's why you have to go along. And you can carry 2 loaves of bread, too. I said, suppose they counted the loaves already. Perhaps they did, said Henry. Let's hope not. Anyway, they might think we ate them while they were asleep. Are you ready? Swallowing hard, I said, yes. Good, said Henry. You get dressed, go down the back way, and get out the side door the way I'm going now. You creep along the wall of the house very quietly. Better carry your shoes because of the noise of the wooden soles on the gravel until you come to the boys' dormitory. Then stand under that window. Philip will throw you the blankets and he will jump down because for him it is not too high and he can get a foothold on the wisteria. What about the bread? I'll get it when I go down now and leave it outside under the boys' dormitory window. Ready? I said, suppose they wake up when you go to the kitchen. I have to take a chance. Those in the cave have to eat. Suppose, I said again, they wake up later and catch us, Philip and me. Suppose, retorted Henry impatiently. If you don't want to go, say so. I'll ask Denise. Was I mad, but I kept my peace. Henry seemed so nervous. Nevertheless, what a relief when he added, it's all fixed, Miss Suppose. George is to hang a white handkerchief at the boys' window. It will remain there as long as the coast is clear. I bit my lips, not to interrupt with, and if? Luckily, Henry went on, if you don't see the hanky, watch out. It means they are roaming abroad, and if they are, I have no suggestion. Use your wits. The only watchword, no matter what happens, no matter the cost, don't betray. All set? Yes, I said firmly. I didn't want to hear the name of Denise mentioned again, but as Henry got up, he gave me a friendly sharp poke in the ribs with his elbow, and I felt ready to face all the Nazis in the world. There is not much to say about our getting to the cave. It went like clockwork. I got dressed, went down the back way, holding my shoes in my hand, got out the side door, and crept along the wall barefooted. And no sooner had I reached the boys' dormitory window than 4 blankets came down on my head, one after the other. Before I had disentangled myself, Philip had slipped down. He was barefooted and had not bothered to take his shoes. We picked up everything, including the 2 loaves of bread, which were right where Henry said he would put them, and waving goodbye to George, who was tying the hanky at the window and was to remain on watch all the while, we skipped across the yard. Then I put my shoes back on, and in no time at all, we were at the cave. Philip stretched flat on the ground. He put his head in the crack and called softly, Arthur! At once we heard Arthur's voice. Yes, Philip, very softly too. We handed the blankets down and the bread, and then we ourselves slipped down. At first we couldn't see anyone, but as our eyes got accustomed to the dark, we saw the whole group huddled together at the far end of the cave where it was the warmest. Were they happy to have the blankets? Arthur said quietly and as if he were not nervous at all, the boys have been taking turns at watching. It's my turn now. That's why I was so near the entrance when you came. I heard you coming up. I knew right away that it was you and not the soldiers. And I knew too by the footsteps that there was a girl. He added quite sternly, why didn't Henry come? Why did he let a girl get into this jam? So we had to tell him everything that had happened, how Henry had to stay in the coal shed, and I had to show Philip the way. Then Arthur told us they had heard the footsteps of the Nazi soldier coming up the hill, and he had sat right on the boulder above the cave for a long time, and they could smell the smoke of his pipe. While Arthur talked, he broke one of the loaves of bread in 2. He went on, we don't know how long before we see you again. We have to save as much as possible. Then he broke separate small pieces and handed them around, and he gave Philip and me a piece too, and we would not take it, of course. But Arthur said, if you don't eat, I won't either. And as we knew how determined and obstinate or stubborn he could be, we had to eat. And did it taste good? Philip told everyone, "We'll be right over as soon as they are gone." And Arthur repeated, "No matter what happens, we won't budge from here until one of you comes to fetch us." Then we had to leave. The whole group stood around us in the dark. All of us were so terribly afraid of being caught, but we did not speak about it. We just hugged and kissed one another over and over again. Cautiously, Philip and I crept out. We went stealthily down from bush to bush and behind rocks. Finally, there was the house in the middle of the yard, and thank God, the hanky was still floating at the window. I took off my shoes. Philip said, "I'll go across first, alone. You stay hidden here. If everything's all right and you see me going up the wisteria, shoot across too and crawl along the wall as you did before, and get back through the side door." "All right," I whispered, my eyes on George's hanky up there. Philip made a dash across. I saw him starting to climb the wisteria, and I shot across too. But as I did, off went the hanky. I crashed against the wall. I heard the side door open and shut, and 4 heavy boots on the gravel. Flat against the wall, panic-stricken in the dark, I knew I was caught if I did not think fast. As the beam of the flashlight pierced the night, I quickly put my shoes back on and slowly, boldly walked right out in the yard in the direction of the John, or the outhouse, just as if I had come out of the front door. The voice of the young soldier cracked the air, "Stop, or I'll shoot." At the same time, the flashlight revolved and rested on me. I stopped. He came across quickly, followed by the other soldier. "Only that stupid little girl of this afternoon," he said in a disgusted voice, and all in French for my benefit, I suppose. "What are you doing out here at this time of the night? Spying, eh? I'll teach you." He grabbed me roughly by the arm and pushed me toward the side door. Heavens, I didn't want him to start questioning me, so I struggled like mad, pointing to the John all the time. The old soldier said she probably was just going to the John. "Well, ask her," said the young Nazi. "See if you can get more out of a girl than you did from that boy." At once I started to yell. "Shut up," bawled the young soldier, dropping me like a hot potato, whereupon I ran full speed to the John, and there I stayed quite a time, and when I came out, I walked proudly right in the open past the Nazis who were talking. Dawn had come. I went upstairs and tumbled into bed at last. And that's the end of chapter 4. So look forward to reading the last chapter.